The legend of the Golden Leopard. For centuries, whispers of the Golden Leopard have drifted through the winds of ancient jungles. Said to be a statue of exquisite craftsmanship, carved by a forgotten civilization, the leopard is not just a symbol of wealth, it is wealth itself. Its body is made of solid gold, adorned with precious gems that shimmer in the faintest light. But this treasure, as alluring as it may seem, is not free for the taking. Legends speak of those who sought the leopard throughout the centuries. Kingdoms have risen and fallen on the rumors of its existence. Great explorers have ventured into the jungle, only to disappear without a trace, leaving behind nothing but stories of curses and vengeful spirits. It's said that the leopard is protected by the spirits of the very craftsmen who created it, men who poured their souls into the work, vowing to protect it for all eternity. To find the Golden Leopard is to tempt fate itself. The statue brings eternal wealth, or so the stories go, but no one who has ever tried to claim it has lived to enjoy that wealth. Those who attempt to steal it are met with unspeakable horrors, cursed by the ancient spirits to face a slow, terrifying demise. Some say the jungle itself protects the leopard, shifting its paths to confuse and disorient those who seek it, ensuring that none leave its depths once they enter. The tale of the Golden Leopard has persisted for so long that many have dismissed it as mere folklore, the stuff of bedtime stories meant to keep children from wandering too far into the woods. But for those who still believe in ancient legends and forgotten riches, the leopard represents the ultimate prize, a fortune so great that it would change their lives forever. And yet, the cost of pursuing it could be their very souls. And yet, despite the warnings, there are always those brave or foolish enough to seek it. This is the tale of one such group. 4 treasure hunters, each with their own ambitions and desires, set off into the heart of the jungle, determined to find the leopard and unlock the fortune it promises. There's Marcus, the seasoned explorer who thrives on the thrill of discovery, a man whose reputation precedes him as someone who has found treasures that others thought impossible to retrieve. Elena, a historian and archaeologist, is driven by her need to uncover the truth behind ancient myths and prove that the Golden Leopard is more than just a story passed down through generations. Victor, the wealthy businessman who funds the expedition, is motivated purely by greed, seeing the leopard as his key to untold riches and power. And finally, there's Sarah, the adventurer who lives for excitement and the thrill of the unknown, eager to add another tale of danger and survival to her already impressive list of exploits. Together, they represent the classic combination of ambition, greed, and curiosity. But little do they know, this journey will test not only their endurance, but their very souls. Before setting out, they consult ancient maps and texts, piecing together clues from different sources. Each piece of information points to a single, isolated temple deep in the heart of a jungle no modern map has charted. It is said that only the worthy can find the leopard, and only the pure of heart can leave with it unharmed. The maps are old, faded with time, and many of the routes they show have long been reclaimed by the jungle. Yet, the promise of wealth pushes them forward. But are any of them truly pure? As they set foot into the thick, suffocating greenery of the jungle, they are unaware that they have already set in motion forces far older and far more dangerous than anything they've ever encountered. The jungle seems alive with secrets. The trees loom tall and ancient, their branches intertwining above, casting the group in perpetual shadow. The air is thick with moisture, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a branch underfoot feels like a warning. Birds call out in shrill cries from unseen perches, and the occasional glimpse of a snake slithering through the undergrowth keeps them on edge. There is an unspoken understanding among the group that they are intruding in a place that has long been left untouched by human hands. The tension builds as the group presses deeper into the heart of the jungle. What begins as excitement and anticipation soon gives way to a creeping sense of unease. They start to notice things, small things at first. Strange carvings on trees that seem to follow them, subtle shifts in the terrain that make them question if they're walking in circles. The deeper they go, the more they feel as though they're being watched, not by animals or fellow humans, but by something far more ancient, something that lurks just beyond the edges of their vision. The legend of the Golden Leopard may just be that, a legend. But legends, they soon realize, often carry grains of truth. And the deeper they journey, the more they sense that this is no ordinary expedition. The stage is set, and the hunt begins. With the ancient maps in hand and their gear packed, the treasure hunters embark on their perilous journey. The thick canopy of the jungle looms overhead, creating a suffocating, oppressive atmosphere. Every step feels as though they are entering deeper into another world, one where time has stood still and nature reigns supreme. The trek is slow and arduous. The heat is stifling, and the dense vegetation makes it difficult to navigate. Vines hang low, entangling their feet, while sharp thorns scrape at their arms as they push forward. Sweat trickles down their brows, and insects buzz relentlessly around them, attracted to the moisture of their skin. Each hunter is lost in their own thoughts, weighed down not just by their gear, but by the knowledge of what they seek. Marcus leads the way, his machete slicing through the undergrowth. His sharp eyes scan the terrain, looking for any sign of danger or clues that could lead them closer to the temple. He is focused, almost obsessively so. For him, this isn't just another treasure hunt. It's the culmination of years of research, of whispers overheard in shady taverns, and cryptic clues uncovered in ancient texts. The Golden Leopard is his obsession, and nothing will stop him from finding it. Behind him, Elena carefully documents their progress, scribbling notes in her weathered journal. She pauses occasionally to examine peculiar carvings on tree trunks, symbols that match the ones she had studied before they set out. Her academic curiosity drives her, but beneath that, there's a deeper desire to prove that the myths are real, that the Golden Leopard is more than just a story. She wants the world to see that history is still full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Victor, however, is far less interested in the journey. The heat and the physical exertion are getting to him, and his expensive clothes, once pristine, are now soaked with sweat and mud. He grimaces as he wipes his forehead with a silk handkerchief, clearly uncomfortable in this environment. To him, the jungle is just an obstacle, a necessary evil on the path to unimaginable wealth. His thoughts are filled with visions of gold and power, of the riches he will claim once they retrieve the leopard. Sarah, the youngest of the group, brings up the rear, her eyes wide with excitement. She's no stranger to dangerous expeditions, but something about this one feels different. The thrill of the unknown excites her, and though she can sense the tension building among her companions, she remains optimistic. After all, it's the thrill of the hunt that keeps her going, the adrenaline rush of facing the unknown. As the group ventures deeper into the jungle, they begin to notice subtle changes in their surroundings. The air grows cooler, and an unnatural stillness settles over the forest. The sounds of birds and insects, once constant, gradually fade away, leaving an eerie silence. It's as if the jungle itself is holding its breath, waiting. "Elena," Marcus calls back, his voice hushed. "You see this?" He points to a series of markings on a nearby tree. They are unlike any carvings they've seen before, intricate, geometric patterns etched into the bark, their meaning unclear but undeniably ancient. Elena approaches, running her fingers over the symbols, her mind racing. "These are ceremonial markings," she says, her voice low. "We're getting closer. The temple can't be far now." The excitement among the group rises, but with it comes a creeping sense of dread. It's as if the jungle is watching them, waiting for them to make the wrong move. And soon it does. As they continue their march, the ground beneath them shifts slightly. The earth feels soft, unstable. Marcus halts, signaling for the group to stop. He kneels down, inspecting the soil. "This doesn't feel right," he mutters, but before he can react, there's a loud crack from behind. Victor, impatient as ever, had taken a few steps forward, his foot landing on what looks like solid ground. But in an instant, the earth gives way beneath him, and with a shout of terror, he plummets into a pit below. "Victor!" Sarah screams, rushing forward, but Marcus pulls her back just in time. "Wait!" Peering over the edge, they see Victor hanging onto a crumbling ledge, his face pale with fear. Below him, Sharp stakes protrude from the bottom of the pit, a trap, carefully concealed by the jungle, lying in wait for unsuspecting travelers. Marcus acts quickly, securing a rope and tossing it down. Victor, trembling, grabs hold, and with a great deal of effort, the group pulls him up, out of harm's way. He collapses on the ground, panting, his hands shaking. "I could have died," he gasps, looking up at them with wide eyes. "What the hell is this place?" "It's a warning," Elena says softly, staring at the pit. "The temple's defenses are still active. Whoever built this place didn't want anyone getting close to the leopard." The group exchanges uneasy glances. The journey is no longer just a test of endurance. It's a battle for survival. And though they've narrowly escaped the trap this time, there's a gnawing feeling in the back of their minds that this won't be the last. They press on, the atmosphere around them thick with tension. The jungle seems to close in on them, the trees taller, the shadows darker. Every step is taken with caution now, each sound analyzed, each movement carefully considered. The treasure they seek is close, but so is the danger that guards it. As dusk begins to fall, they reach a clearing. In the distance, just visible through the dense foliage, they see it, the ancient temple, its stone walls crumbling yet imposing, rising out of the jungle like a forgotten monument to a time long past. It's a sight both awe-inspiring and terrifying. "There it is," Marcus whispers, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "The temple of the Golden Leopard." But as the shadows lengthen and the night draws near, the group can't shake the feeling that they aren't alone. Unseen eyes seem to follow their every move, and though the temple stands before them, a part of them wonders if they've ventured too far. And so, as the sun sets on their first day in the jungle, the treasure hunters prepare to make camp, knowing that the real challenges are only just beginning. Night falls quickly in the jungle, bringing with it an impenetrable darkness that presses in from all sides. The fire crackles in the middle of the group's hastily made camp, casting flickering shadows across their faces. Each of the treasure hunters sits in silence, lost in their own thoughts, while the thick, humid air seems to weigh heavily on their shoulders. The temple looms in the distance, a dark silhouette against the night sky, but none of them dares to approach it under the cover of darkness. For now, the fire is their only comfort, a fragile shield against the unknown dangers lurking just beyond the circle of light. Victor, still shaken from his near-death experience earlier in the day, stares into the flames, his hands clutching a flask of water. The smug arrogance he had carried with him into the jungle is gone, replaced by a deep, knowing fear. He knows how close he came to dying, and the thought won't leave him. "We're being watched," Sarah mutters, breaking the silence. Her eyes scan the darkness around them, as if she can sense the unseen presence lingering just beyond the fire's glow. Elena looks up from her journal, where she's been feverishly writing notes on the markings they discovered earlier. "It's just the jungle," she says, though her voice lacks conviction. "We've been out here too long. It's playing tricks on your mind." "No, it's not just the jungle," Sarah insists, her voice tense. "I've been on expeditions before, but this feels different. It's like something is following us." Marcus, ever the pragmatist, shrugs off their concerns. "We've already come this far. We'll get some rest and push on at first light. The temple is right there. We're close. We can't let fear get the better of us." But even Marcus, for all his bravado, can't ignore the growing sense of unease that settled over their camp. The jungle has become unnaturally quiet. The usual chorus of insects and nocturnal animals has fallen silent, replaced by an oppressive stillness that seems to pulse with an invisible energy. It doesn't take long for the first signs of the curse to manifest. As the group settles in for the night, their eyes heavy with exhaustion, Victor begins to feel an odd sensation, a tingling at the base of his spine that slowly creeps up his back. He shifts uncomfortably, trying to shake it off, but the feeling intensifies. It's as if something cold and formless is crawling up his skin, wrapping around his neck. He gasps, sitting bolt upright, his hands clawing at his throat. "Victor, you okay?" Marcus asks, sitting up and looking at him with concern. But Victor doesn't respond. His eyes are wide with panic, his breath coming in short, ragged bursts. He stumbles to his feet, his face pale in the firelight. I can't breathe. He wheezes, his hands frantically trying to pry away something that isn't there. The others rush to his side, but before they can do anything, Victor collapses to the ground, convulsing violently. Get him on his side. Marcus shouts, but it's too late. Victor's body goes rigid, his limbs twisting at unnatural angles as his eyes roll back into his head. His mouth opens in a silent scream, but no sound escapes. It's as if his very soul is being ripped from his body. The others can only watch in horror as Victor's body is suddenly lifted off the ground by an unseen force, his limbs dangling limply in the air. For a brief moment, the fire flares up, casting the shadow of a spectral figure behind him, an ancient spirit, its hollow eyes glowing with malice. And then, with a final bone-chilling scream, Victor's body is flung across the camp, slamming into a nearby tree with a sickening crack. He falls to the ground, motionless. The group is frozen in place, their minds struggling to comprehend what just happened. The air is thick with an overwhelming sense of dread, the weight of the curse pressing down on them. Elena is the first to break the silence. This can't be real, she whispers, her voice trembling. We didn't even touch the leopard yet. How? How could this happen? The curse, Sarah mutters, her eyes wide with fear. It's real. It's already started. Marcus, his face pale but resolute, stands up, his gaze fixed on Victor's lifeless body. We need to keep moving, he says, his voice hard and determined. We can't stay here. The temple is close. If we leave now, maybe we can find a way to stop this before it's too late. But Victor, Elena begins, her voice breaking. He's gone, Marcus snaps, his tone leaving no room for argument. We're not safe here. The spirits are watching us. If we stay, we'll be next. Reluctantly, the others nod, still shaken by what they've witnessed. They gather their supplies as quickly as they can, their hands trembling with fear. The fire sputters and dies, leaving them in near-total darkness as they prepare to move out. But as they make their way toward the temple, a chilling realization settles over them. Victor's death was only the beginning. The curse has been awakened, and it will not rest until it claims them all. With each step, the oppressive weight of the jungle seems to grow heavier, as if the very earth itself is trying to swallow them whole. The temple may offer answers, but it may also be their final resting place. The spirits are restless, and the hunt has begun. The jungle feels more oppressive with every step they take. The trees, tall and ancient, seem to loom over them, casting long shadows that twist and writhe in the dim light of their torches. The path ahead is unclear, with dense vegetation and tangled roots threatening to trip them up at every turn. The further they walk, the heavier the air feels, and the more it seems as though the jungle itself is alive, watching them with unseen eyes. As they press on, the group's initial fear begins to mutate into something more insidious, paranoia. Every sound, every rustle of leaves, becomes a potential threat. The spirits that claimed Victor linger in their minds, haunting their every thought. The horror of his death has left a scar on each of them, one that begins to fester as the night stretches on. We should have left, Elena whispers under her breath, her voice trembling. She clutches her journal to her chest, her eyes darting around as though expecting the spirits to materialize from the darkness at any moment. This was a mistake. We shouldn't be here. Marcus, walking ahead with his machete, doesn't respond. His jaw is set, his gaze fixed on the path in front of him, though even he can't deny the rising fear gnawing at the edges of his mind. He's no stranger to danger, but something about this place feels different. It's not just the jungle or the traps. It's the presence of something ancient, something that should have been left undisturbed. Sarah, usually the most upbeat of the group, is silent now, her face drawn and tense. She keeps glancing over her shoulder, convinced that they're being followed. She doesn't voice her fears, but it's clear in her wide, nervous eyes that she's on edge. Every time she hears a twig snap or the distant call of an animal, she flinches, her hand instinctively reaching for the knife strapped to her side. We're close, Marcus says at last, breaking the silence. His voice is low, barely audible above the sounds of the jungle. But there's a determination in it that cuts through the tension. The temple has to be just ahead. We keep moving. But even as he says the words, doubt claws at his mind. How many times has he thought they were close? How many hours have they spent wandering through this godforsaken jungle? The terrain shifts subtly beneath their feet, as though the jungle itself is changing, making it harder to keep track of their direction. Then it happens. At first, it's subtle, just a flicker at the edge of their vision. Marcus halts, his breath catching in his throat. He turns his head, but there's nothing there, just darkness, thick and impenetrable. He shakes his head, convinced it's just his imagination. But then, it happens again. This time, Elena sees it too, a shadow darting between the trees, quick and fluid. They're one moment and gone the next. She lets out a small gasp, her grip tightening on her journal. "Did you see that?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nods slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. "Yeah, I saw it." Sarah edges closer to them, her eyes wide. "We're not alone out here," she says, her voice shaking. "Something's watching us." Panic begins to set in. They've already lost Victor, and now it seems like the spirits are toying with them, letting them know they're never far from danger. The jungle, once a living, breathing entity, now feels more like a tomb, and they are the next victims. Suddenly, Elena stops in her tracks, her face going pale, her breathing becomes shallow, her eyes widening as if she's seeing something the others can't. Marcus notices her frozen stance and rushes over. "Elena, what is it?" Marcus asks, concern etched across his face. But Elena doesn't respond. Her gaze is locked on something far in the distance, something only she can see. Her lips tremble, and her hands clutch the journal so tightly her knuckles turn white. "Elena, snap out of it," Marcus shouts, shaking her by the shoulders. It's only then that she seems to come back to reality, blinking rapidly as if waking from a trance. She gasps, her eyes darting around in confusion. I saw them," she stammers, her voice barely audible. "The spirits. They're here. They're everywhere." Her words send a chill through the group, but before anyone can respond, there's a loud crack from behind them. Sarah spins around, her knife drawn, ready to defend herself against whatever is out there. But the jungle is silent again, as if mocking their fear. They are losing their grip on reality. Each step forward feels like a descent into madness, as the spirits seem to close in around them, unseen but ever-present. The jungle is playing tricks on their minds, warping their perception of time and space. The shadows seem to move of their own accord, twisting into grotesque shapes that taunt them at every turn. Elena begins to mumble under her breath, her once sharp mind unraveling with every passing moment. She clings to her journal as if it's the only thing tethering her to reality, but even that seems to be slipping away. She talks of ancient rites, of forgotten gods and vengeful spirits, her voice barely coherent as she mutters about the curse they've awakened. "We need to keep it together," Marcus growls through gritted teeth, his own fear starting to surface. "The temple is close. We have to keep moving." But the spirits won't allow it. As they push forward, Sarah suddenly drops to her knees, her hands clutching her head as if in agony. Her breath comes in ragged gasps, and she lets out a low guttural moan, her body trembling. "No, no, get out of my head," she screams, her voice raw with terror. Marcus rushes to her side, grabbing her shoulders and shaking her, but she's unresponsive. Her eyes are wide, staring blankly ahead as if she's seeing something too terrible to comprehend. The spirits have found her weakness, and they're exploiting it, worming their way into her mind and driving her to the edge of madness. "We have to keep moving," Marcus shouts, though his voice trembles with uncertainty. But Sarah is lost to them now. She begins to claw at her own skin, as if trying to tear something out from beneath it. Blood wells up beneath her fingernails as she scratches furiously at her arms, her face twisted in pain. Marcus stands frozen, watching helplessly as the jungle takes its toll on them. He knows now that this isn't just about finding the treasure. It's about survival, surviving the jungle, surviving the spirits, surviving each other. The line between reality and the supernatural has blurred beyond recognition, and they're falling deeper into the abyss with every step they take. As they leave Sarah behind, her mind shattered, the weight of the curse presses down on them with crushing force. The jungle is alive, and it's hungry for their souls. The temple rises before them, an imposing structure half consumed by the jungle, its stone walls wrapped in thick vines and moss. Though crumbling in places, the temple retains an aura of power, as though it has stood defiant against time and the elements for centuries. For Marcus and Elena, the sight of the temple brings a momentary sense of relief. They've made it. Despite the horrors that have already befallen their group, they are finally standing at the threshold of the legendary treasure. But that relief is fleeting. The jungle behind them seems to pulse with life, the spirits lingering just out of sight, watching, waiting. Marcus and Elena are the last ones standing, but their minds are battered, their bodies exhausted. They both know that they aren't safe yet, that the real test is about to begin. "We're here," Marcus breathes, his voice hoarse. "This is it." Elena nods, though her expression is far from celebratory. The deaths of Victor and Sarah weigh heavily on her, and though she spent her life searching for the truth behind ancient legends, the reality of what they've unleashed is almost too much to bear. As they step closer to the entrance, they see that the stone doorway is covered in intricate carvings, similar to the ones they saw earlier in the jungle. These carvings depict scenes of sacrifice and worship, with figures kneeling before a towering figure of a leopard, its eyes made of gleaming emeralds. "This must be the leopard," Elena whispers, tracing her fingers over the carvings. The people who built this temple, they didn't just worship it, they feared it. Marcus is less interested in the history at this point. His eyes are fixed on the doorway, where faint golden light spills out from within. "Come on," he says, his voice hard and determined. "We didn't come all this way to stop now." They step inside, their torches casting long, flickering shadows across the stone walls. The air is cool and heavy, filled with the scent of damp earth and something else, something metallic and sharp, like blood. Elena shivers, but says nothing, her focus on the task at hand. She knows that they're walking into the heart of the curse, but there's no turning back now. The corridor leads them deeper into the temple, twisting and turning in ways that make them lose track of direction. It feels as though the temple is leading them somewhere, guiding them toward the treasure, but also trapping them in its labyrinthine design. And then, after what feels like hours of walking, they arrive at the inner sanctum. The room is vast, its ceiling towering high above them. In the center of the room, bathed in the soft glow of torchlight, stands the Golden Leopard. It's everything the legends promised. An exquisitely detailed statue of a leopard, its body made entirely of gold, its eyes glowing with emerald fire. The air around it seems to shimmer, as though the treasure itself is alive. For a moment, Marcus and Elena stand frozen, captivated by the sight. The leopard is beautiful, its golden surface reflecting the light in a way that almost seems otherworldly. But there's something more, something darker. The leopard's eyes seem to follow them, cold and calculating, as though it's aware of their presence. Marcus steps forward, his heart racing. "We did it," he whispers, his hand reaching out toward the statue. "It's real." "Wait," Elena says, grabbing his arm before he can touch it. "We need to be careful. The curse." "I don't care about the curse." Marcus snaps, his voice breaking. He pulls away from her, his eyes wild with desperation. "We've come too far. I'm not leaving without it." Elena watches in horror as Marcus moves toward the leopard, his hands trembling with excitement. She knows what's going to happen, but there's nothing she can do to stop it. The curse is already in motion, and Marcus, blinded by greed, is walking straight into its grasp. The moment his fingers brush against the golden surface of the leopard, the room erupts in chaos. The ground beneath them begins to tremble, and a low, rumbling sound echoes through the temple. The torches flicker wildly, casting erratic shadows across the walls. The air grows colder, and the oppressive presence of the spirits becomes undeniable. They are here, angry, vengeful, and ready to claim their next victim. "Marcus, no!" Elena screams, But it's too late. The leopard's eyes flash with an unnatural light, and Marcus is thrown backward, crashing into the stone wall with a sickening thud. He groans in pain, but before he can move, the spirits descend upon him. They are no longer just shadows, they are fully formed, spectral figures with hollow eyes and twisted, contorted faces. They swarm around Marcus, their hands reaching for him, their mouths open in silent screams. He thrashes wildly, trying to fight them off, but there's no escape. The spirits latch onto him, pulling him down into the earth as though the temple itself is swallowing him whole. Elena can only watch, paralyzed by fear, as Marcus's body is consumed by the spirits. His screams echo through the chamber, growing fainter and fainter until there's nothing left but silence. And then, as quickly as it began, the room falls still. Elena stands alone, her heart pounding in her chest, her mind reeling. The leopard stands untouched in the center of the room, its eyes still glowing faintly, as if it's satisfied with the sacrifice it has claimed. For a long moment, she doesn't move. The weight of what just happened presses down on her, suffocating her with the realization that she is the only one left. Victor is gone. Sarah is gone. And now, Marcus is gone too, claimed by the very treasure they sought. But the leopard, it's still there, untouched, waiting. Elena takes a step back, her mind screaming at her to leave, to run, to get out of this cursed place while she still can. But something holds her in place. The leopard's eyes lock onto hers, and for a brief, horrifying moment, she understands. The leopard wasn't just a statue. It was a vessel, a trap designed to lure the greedy and the foolish to their doom. The curse was never just about protecting the treasure. It was about feeding the spirits, about keeping the temple's dark power alive. Elena's hands shake as she steps backward, her eyes never leaving the leopard. She knows she can't take it, knows that if she touches it, she will suffer the same fate as Marcus. But the temptation is still there, gnawing at the edges of her mind. Slowly she turns and runs, her footsteps echoing through the empty halls of the temple. The leopard's eyes follow her as she flees, but the spirits do not. Not yet. Elena sprints through the temple corridors, her breath ragged and her heart pounding in her chest. The walls seem to close in around her, the air thick with the weight of the curse that lingers in every corner. Behind her, the temple groans as if awakening, its ancient stone walls shifting and cracking under the strain of the spirit's rage. She doesn't dare look back, not even as the sounds of crumbling stone and ghostly whispers echo behind her. Her legs burn with exhaustion, but adrenaline keeps her moving. She knows that stopping is not an option. The spirits are still watching, still waiting for their next chance to strike. If she falters, even for a moment, she knows she will meet the same fate as Marcus, Victor, and Sarah. As she bursts out of the temple and into the jungle, the night air hits her like a wall. The oppressive heat of the day has given way to a chilling cold that seeps into her bones. But she doesn't stop. The jungle is dense and wild, and navigating it in the dark is nearly impossible. But Elena has no choice. She crashes through the undergrowth, branches slashing at her arms and face, her mind racing as she tries to remember the way back to camp. But the jungle isn't the same as it was before. It feels different now, alive, hostile, as if it's been twisted by the curse. The path she thought she remembered is gone, swallowed by the shifting foliage. She stumbles over roots and rocks, barely able to keep her footing as the jungle seems to warp around her, disorienting her with every step. In the distance, she hears the faint sound of whispers, low, haunting murmurs that seem to come from all directions at once. The spirits are still following her, their presence growing stronger with each passing second. Elena's panic rises, her mind screaming at her to run faster, but her body is starting to give out. Her muscles ache, her lungs burn, and her vision blurs with exhaustion. And then, in the distance, she sees it, the faint glow of the campfire, flickering through the trees like a beacon in the darkness. Relief floods through her, and for a brief moment, she allows herself to hope. She's almost there, almost safe. But as she draws closer, the jungle seems to tighten its grip around her. The whispers grow louder, more insistent, and the shadows around her seem to move of their own accord. The spirits are closing in, and she can feel their cold breath on the back of her neck, their skeletal fingers reaching out to claim her. With one final burst of energy, Elena stumbles into the clearing where their camp had been. But something is wrong. The fire is out. The tents are gone. It's as if their camp had never been there at all. Her heart sinks as the realization sets in. This isn't the way out. The jungle has played a cruel trick on her, leading her in circles, dragging her back into its grasp. The spirits, unseen but ever-present, surround her now, their whispers turning into low, mocking laughter. Elena collapses to the ground, her hands clutching the damp earth as her mind races, trying to make sense of what's happening. She's trapped, lost in the jungle with no way out, and the curse is closing in. No, she whispers, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. This can't be it. But deep down, she knows the truth. The jungle, the spirits, the curse, it was never about the treasure. It was about punishment. No one was ever meant to leave. The laughter fades into a deafening silence, and for a moment, Elena is left alone in the dark, her breath coming in shallow, terrified gasps. And then slowly she senses it. Another presence in the clearing, watching her. She doesn't need to turn around to know what it is. The leopard. She feels its gaze, cold and calculating, as it watches her from the shadows. The curse has claimed its victims, but it isn't finished yet. Elena scrambles to her feet, her hands shaking as she turns to face the jungle once more. She knows she can't stay here. She has to keep moving, keep running, keep trying to find a way out. But the jungle seems endless, and the spirits are relentless. Every direction looks the same. Every path leads deeper into the heart of the curse. For hours, maybe longer, Elena runs. Her body moves on instinct, driven by sheer willpower and the primal need to survive. But no matter how far she goes, no matter how fast she runs, the jungle never ends. The shadows grow darker, the whispers louder, and the cold, unseen presence of the leopard follows her every step. And then, just as her legs begin to give out, just as her vision starts to blur with exhaustion, she sees it, a glimmer of hope. A clearing ahead, bathed in soft moonlight, its edges lined with ancient stone markers. It's the edge of the jungle, the way out. Elena's heart races with a desperate hope, and she forces her aching body to move faster. She stumbles toward the clearing, her feet dragging through the undergrowth, her breath coming in short, shallow bursts. But as she reaches the edge of the jungle, something stops her. A voice, soft, gentle, almost soothing. Elena. She freezes, her blood turning to ice. The voice isn't coming from behind her. It's coming from the clearing, from the edge of the jungle, where the moonlight glows softly on the stone markers. Elena, come closer. She doesn't move. She knows that voice, and it shouldn't be here. It's impossible. Elena, it's me. Her heart pounds in her chest as the voice calls out again, and this time, she can't resist. She takes a step forward, her eyes scanning the clearing, her mind struggling to comprehend what's happening. And then she sees him, Marcus. Standing at the edge of the clearing, his figure bathed in moonlight, his face calm and serene. He's whole, uninjured, smiling softly at her as though nothing has happened. Marcus, she whispers, her voice trembling. He nods, beckoning her forward. It's over. We're free. For a moment, she hesitates. She knows what she saw back in the temple. She saw Marcus die, saw the spirits claim him. This can't be real. But then, as the jungle closes in around her, the whispers growing louder and louder, Elena feels the crushing weight of exhaustion finally take hold. She's so tired, so tired. And Marcus? He's right there, waiting for her. She takes another step forward. And then another. The jungle watches in silence as Elena walks toward the clearing, her eyes fixed on the figure of Marcus, her mind numb with exhaustion and fear. And as she steps into the moonlight, the leopard watches. The soft moonlight filters through the trees, casting long shadows over the clearing where Marcus stands, his hand outstretched toward Elena. For a moment, everything seems peaceful. The jungle is still, the oppressive weight of the spirits feels distant, and the only sound is the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze. Marcus, bathed in an ethereal glow, smiles at her with a calmness that should comfort her, but doesn't. Elena takes another hesitant step forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She knows deep down that this can't be real. She saw Marcus die, saw him ripped from this world by the curse. And yet, here he stands, as if untouched by the horrors they faced. Elena! Marcus calls again, his voice gentle and inviting. You made it. We can leave now. His words send a shiver down her spine. She wants to believe him, wants to believe that the nightmare is over, that somehow he survived, and that together they can escape this cursed place. But something about the way he speaks, the way he moves, feels wrong, too perfect, too controlled. Marcus, she whispers, her voice trembling. How are you here? I saw you. He tilts his head slightly, his expression never faltering. It's over now, he says simply. Come with me, we're free. The urge to run, to reach out and take his hand, wells up inside her. She is so tired, tired of running, tired of the fear, tired of fighting against the inevitable. If Marcus is here, maybe they can escape. Maybe there's still hope. But then, in the pit of her stomach, she feels it, the cold, creeping dread that has followed her through the jungle. It's not gone. It's here, watching her, waiting for her to make the wrong move. Elena takes a step back, her eyes narrowing as she studies Marcus. His smile remains fixed, his hands still outstretched, but there's something off about him, something in his eyes. They don't reflect the moonlight the way they should. Instead, they seem hollow, like the empty gaze of the spirits that have haunted them. Who are you? Elena whispers, her voice shaking with fear and suspicion. You're not Marcus. The figure of Marcus falters for a split second, just long enough for Elena to see the truth. The smile fades, and the warmth in his face vanishes, replaced by something cold, something malevolent. His outstretched hand lowers, and his once soft voice takes on a darker, harsher tone. You can't leave, the voice says, no longer Marcus's, but something far older, far more dangerous. The leopard won't let you. Elena's heart skips a beat as the figure of Marcus begins to dissolve, his body unraveling like mist in the wind. In his place stands one of the spirits, its hollow, empty eyes fixed on her, its bony fingers curled in anticipation. The curse isn't done with her yet. Panicking, Elena stumbles backward, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The jungle seems to close in around her, the shadows growing longer and darker as the spirits materialize from the trees, their forms flickering in and out of existence like ghosts. They surround her, their whispers growing louder and more insistent, calling her name over and over again. Elena. She turns in every direction, but there's no way out. The jungle stretches endlessly around her, and the clearing that once seemed like a safe haven is now a prison, trapping her in the heart of the curse. The leopard's power is absolute, and the spirits will not let her leave. Her mind races, trying to find a way to escape, but the crushing weight of the curse bears down on her, suffocating her with fear. She's trapped, just like the others, and there's no one left to help her. Except, maybe there is. A memory flickers in her mind, something Elena had read in the ancient texts before they set out on this doomed expedition. The curse, though powerful, wasn't invincible. There was a way to break it, but it required something most treasure hunters lacked, a pure heart. Only the pure of heart could return the leopard to its rightful place and survive. Elena's thoughts spiral as the spirits close in, their whispers turning into distorted voices that echo in her mind. She knows what she has to do, but the fear is paralyzing. If she fails, the curse will claim her, just as it did Marcus, Victor, and Sarah. But if she doesn't try, she's already lost. Steeling herself, Elena forces her shaking legs to move. She turns back toward the jungle, toward the temple she thought she had escaped. The spirits, sensing her resolve, shriek in fury, their ghostly forms rushing toward her as she bolts into the trees. The jungle seems to fight her at every turn, the thick vines and branches catching her arms and legs, slowing her down. The spirits are relentless, their cold hands brushing against her skin, their whispers filling her ears with doubt and terror. But Elena pushes forward, her mind focused on the one thing that can save her, returning the Golden Leopard to its rightful place. Her journey back to the temple feels like a lifetime. The spirits are always there, just behind her, their presence growing stronger with every step she takes. The jungle itself seems to conspire against her, shifting and twisting to disorient her, but somehow, she finds her way back to the temple entrance. The air is thick with the oppressive energy of the curse as she steps inside, her heart pounding in her chest. The corridors are darker now, the walls closing in around her, but Elena moves with purpose. She knows what she has to do. Finally, she reaches the inner sanctum, where the Golden Leopard still sits, untouched and gleaming in the dim light. Its emerald eyes seem to glow with an eerie intensity, watching her as she approaches. With trembling hands, Elena steps forward, her gaze locked on the leopard. The spirits are all around her now, their presence suffocating, but she doesn't stop. She reaches out, her fingers brushing against the cold golden surface of the statue. The room trembles, and for a moment, Elena feels the weight of the curse crushing down on her. The spirits scream in rage, their ghostly forms swirling around her like a storm, but she holds her ground. "I'm returning it," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "Take it back." With a final, desperate push, Elena sets the Golden Leopard back on its pedestal. The change is immediate. The spirits let out a final, anguished wail before vanishing into the air, their forms dissolving into nothingness. The oppressive weight that has clung to Elena for so long lifts, and for the first time since entering the jungle, she feels a sense of peace. The leopard's eyes dim, the glow fading as the curse is lifted. Elena collapses to her knees, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. She did it. The curse is broken. But as she kneels in the silence of the temple, she knows that the cost was high. Marcus, Victor, Sarah, they're all gone. The jungle took them, just as it had taken so many before. The treasure wasn't worth it. Slowly, Elena rises to her feet. The temple is quiet now, the spirit's gone, but the weight of what she's lost remains heavy in her heart. Without looking back, she turns and walks out of the temple, leaving the Golden Leopard behind. The jungle, once hostile and suffocating, seems to part for her now, allowing her to pass through its dense foliage with ease. The curse is lifted, but the memory of what happened here will stay with her forever. Elena emerges from the jungle just as dawn breaks, the first rays of sunlight cutting through the mist that clings to the trees. The warmth of the sun on her skin feels foreign after so many hours spent in the oppressive darkness of the jungle, but it brings with it a bittersweet relief. She's alive. She's the only one who made it out. Her steps are slow, each one weighed down by exhaustion and the gravity of what she's endured. The jungle is quiet now, its eerie hostility gone, but the scars it left on her mind are deep. She can still feel the cold grip of the spirits, the oppressive energy of the curse pressing down on her as if it never fully let go. As she stumbles toward the edge of the jungle, the small camp they set up days ago comes into view. It feels like a lifetime ago that they stood here, full of excitement and anticipation, ready to claim the Golden Leopard and the riches that came with it. Now those memories feel distant, like they belonged to someone else. The camp is untouched, exactly as they left it. The tents still stand, the supplies neatly stacked where they had been placed, as if the horrors of the jungle never reached this far. But for Elena, this place will forever be haunted by the ghosts of her companions, Victor, Sarah, Marcus. They are gone, claimed by the curse, and nothing she can do will bring them back. With trembling hands, she collapses onto a crate near the edge of the camp, her body finally giving in to the exhaustion that has been building for hours. Her mind races with everything that has happened, the images of Marcus's desperate final moments, Victor's terrified face, and Sarah's screams as she lost her mind all flashing before her eyes. But there is one image that stays with her the most, the cold, calculating gaze of the Golden Leopard, its emerald eyes watching her as she set it back in place. The treasure they had sought wasn't just gold and jewels. It was a trap, a curse designed to punish those who sought it out. And in the end, she was the only one who survived because she was the only one willing to give it back. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, Elena knows she can't stay here. The jungle may be quiet now, but its secrets will always be lurking in the shadows, waiting for the next group of treasure hunters foolish enough to seek out the leopard. She reaches into her pack and pulls out a small notebook, the one she used to document the journey. She flips through the pages, her notes now feeling like the ramblings of someone who didn't fully understand the danger they were walking into. But as she reaches the final page, she hesitates. There's one last thing she needs to do. With a heavy heart, she begins to write, her hand shaking slightly as she scrolls the words across the page. The golden leopard is real, but so is the curse. It is not wealth it brings, but death. To those who seek it, turn back. There is nothing here but ruin. She closes the notebook, her message clear. She will leave it behind. A warning for anyone who stumbles upon this place. A last-ditch effort to stop others from making the same fatal mistake. It's all she can do now. Elena stands, her body aching with every movement, and begins to pack her things. There's nothing left for her here. She knows the story of the golden leopard will live on. But she also knows that she can't be the one to tell it. The world doesn't need another tale of riches and glory. It needs to remember the cost of greed, the dangers of disturbing what should be left alone. As she slings her pack over her shoulder and turns to leave, she takes one last look at the jungle, now bathed in the soft light of morning. The nightmare is over, but it will never truly leave her. The curse may have been lifted, but its memory will haunt her for the rest of her life. With a deep breath, Elena begins the long walk back to civilization. She is a survivor, but she knows that the jungle has taken more than just her companions. It has taken a part of her as well. As she disappears into the distance, the jungle remains silent, its secrets still buried deep within the heart of the temple. The golden leopard sits, untouched, waiting for the next group of hunters to come and claim their fate. And somewhere, in the shadows, the spirits watch and wait,